Hi there, lovelies. I'm Rhonda Crimes. I'm a life and leadership coach supporting everyday people just like you to reflect and rework your everyday stories so you can step into the everyday leadership of your families and communities and create compelling, meaningful, and fruitful lives every day. And today, let's talk about the map is not the territory. I first learnt this expression from Stephen Covey in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, back in the late 80s. And I have to say, it was quite revolutionary for me. I've since heard many versions of it, many times, and it still seems to be one of the hardest principles for most of us to grasp. So let me share what is meant by this. Our brains have the incredible capacity for processing information from all our senses, and according to Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, in his book Flow, we receive about 2 million bits of information per second. But because it would overwhelm our nervous system if we were aware of all of that all at once, we have filters that delete massive amounts of information and only leave us with about 132 bits of information per second that we can be aware of at any one time. It's a bit like when you do a Google search for dog. In 0.66 seconds, there are 3.6 billion results. Way too many to take in. So, if we apply filters like black, female, fluffy, dog names, we can bring the result down to a more manageable and relevant result. This time, 8,430,000 results in 0.41 seconds. And then, bless the Google search engine's heart, it further sorts the information with the articles of most interest to other searchers and places those first. So our brains do the same sort of thing, from 2 million bits of information per second down to 132 bits of information per second, according to our own filters and relevance. Our filters are what we have been conditioned to think and value and perceive. So if you have not good enough programmed in as a filter, your brain will automatically find experiences to support that notion and ignore any opportunities that may show you are in fact enough. These filters are buried in your subconscious, so unless you go on an exploration and dig around, they will remain buried and you will believe what you filter. Another way to think about this is to actually think of a map. All the drawings and marks are representative of an area based on the information available at the time of its creation. So if we look at old world maps, the countries and regions often abruptly end, like this map of Australia from 1644. And then if we then compare it to a more recent satellite image of Australia, it gives us a more relevant picture. However, the important thing to remember is that both of these maps are still only representations of reality. You can't stick your finger in the dark blue bit and get wet. It is a scaled down map of reality. Just as the way we think, believe and perceive are scaled down maps of our own personal reality. So what happens when the territory changes? Just like when the old world sea explorers finally bumped into the east coast of Australia, they needed a new map. So just come back to the present time and think about roadworks, or new estates being developed. If you're using an old map, you won't be able to find these new areas. They simply don't exist on your map. So you don't know they're there until you happen to bump into them. Similarly, when roads are changed, like when freeways are created, many of the old feeder roads are blocked off or they cease to exist. But unless your map is updated, you'll continue to drive around in a state of utter confusion because you can't get to where you want to go. Your representation of reality is not accurate. And so you feel stress and overwhelm because your scaled down map of reality isn't working anymore. Now, maybe the map has been built on crude technology, like the old seafarers. But in our case, it may be because of some form of trauma or abuse that skewed our internal mental and emotional aspects of how we see ourselves and our relationship to the rest of the universe, including our beliefs, values, strategies, and decisions which may only work in some situations and they may not transfer into other territories. Say, for instance, sharing vulnerability was met with ridicule or dismissal. Our map of reality may tell us that we're not to show vulnerability again because everyone will behave this way, not realizing, in fact, that some people actually won't. And so we miss out on many beautiful opportunities for real connection with others through shared vulnerability because our map is faulty. Let me take this a step further. Our maps of reality are also used as a blueprint for our future life creations. We use it to seek and sort what we create. If there is happiness or sorrow, wealth or poverty, taking risks or staying safe, it comes from our mind creating our experiences based upon what the map says. Then, if as we grow and our life changes, we find our map of reality is not serving us as well as it used to. So, that's when you're feeling more stress or overwhelm or other forms of suffering. We don't stop and consciously say, oh, it's okay, my map of reality is outdated. What we actually do is unconsciously find ways of making sure we stick to this seemingly faithful representation of what reality is, like self-sabotage, numbing, acting out, blaming. Just as I spoke of in the previous videos about thresholds and understanding change. If, however, we have come to a point and we know our map is no longer serving us to get the results we want, we need to understand that the old map will need to go into temporary chaos, break down, and then be replaced by a new map that more accurately represents and reflects the new reality. As this process happens, it is our brain's default to try and protect the old map, our concept of who we are and how we relate to the rest of the universe. This is because we get caught up in believing that the map is the territory rather than the representation we created. The map is just a tool for navigation, generally created in response to our life experiences, specifically with our primary caregivers, and then we forget that as we grow up and our circumstances mature and change. It's just a map. It isn't us. In Western psychology, the map is often referred to as the ego, and it is the limitations of the ego to map the real territory that causes the over-threshold experiences, dysfunctional feelings, and behaviours and all the suffering I've mentioned already. If we can let go through the evolutionary process of chaos and reorganisation at a higher level, the problems and limitations of our old map will be replaced, and we will then have the ability to deal with what was stressful and overwhelming. According to Bill Harris of the Centrepoint Research Institute, getting a new map is the secret of growth. Yet we fight it because we think we are the old map. So when we reach a point where the map is no longer serving us and the process of chaos begins, in preparation for its reformation in a new and better way, we resist. We mistakenly think, oh my God, I'm falling apart. And we do everything we can to hold that old map together. Can you imagine if we fought the birthing of a baby in the same way? Like we have a choice. Luckily, our unconscious and our bodies take over, and our conscious thoughts are not in total control. Although I'm sure much of the suffering experienced through this process is also tightly connected to our map of reality about what childbirth should be. So what if instead of resisting, we could say, this is fantastic. My old map of reality, which isn't working that well anymore, and is creating much of my suffering, is falling apart. And then that means I'm going to get a brand new map that will work so much better and allow me to manage, cope, and feel more peaceful once I'm through this temporary discomfort. What if we could just stand aside and watch the process complete itself? Let everything be okay. Remember, for billions of years, everything in the universe has been going into chaos and reorganizing at a higher level. You are not your map or ego or thoughts. Fiona Ross, author of Emotionlotion, provides a fabulous distinction to consider. When you start to really understand this principle, it gives you control, because now your thoughts belong to you and you can do whatever you want with them. Bill Harris sums this up beautifully. You are not your ego. You are not your concept of who you are. You are not your map of reality. It's just a map. And if it goes into chaos, that chaos is part of the process of positive change and the prelude to a better and more functional map. When the old map falls apart, you will still be there, ready to receive the new map, much better off and much happier. I urge you to have faith and trust life. I hope this information continues to stretch you and cause you to get curiously uncomfortable enough to dig a little deeper into your discomfort. I can't tell you how great it is on the other side of that discomfort. You simply have to experience it for yourself. So please remember, if your now is not the picture you've painted for yourself, and you'd like any help on this discovery path, or maybe something completely different that you intuitively know or feel isn't letting your true colours shine through, then please do get in touch with me. You can do it really easily. Just leave me a comment, send me a private message, drop me an email, or pop over to my Calendly online diary using the link I've provided, and we can set up an obligation-free curiosity call to see if we're a good fit for each other. Much love. Until next time.